Yes. I was asked to go to the camera in the middle. So what I'm going to do now. So good morning. Good morning. Today is the day of the European Council, and we will certainly first of all take stock of our strategic agenda, the strategic agenda since Versailles. And here mainly three topics. The first one is security and defense. Here the Commission will come forward in the next weeks with a defense industry strategy. Then the second topic will be a look at energy. We have moved mountains since Versailles. What energy security is concerned, it's amazing to see how we got rid of our dependency on Russian fossil fuels, but also the huge leap forward in the investment in renewable energies. And the third element will certainly be the resilience of supply chains. Here too, a lot has happened. The buzzwords are CHIPS Act or the Critical Raw Materials Act. This is taking stock of the Versailles agenda. Then, of course, there are other issues we will look at. For example, enlargement. Here, all of us, we have homework to do. Of course, the candidate countries have to do homework to access the European Union, but we as a European Union have also to do homework insofar the Commission will work on different policy reviews in different fields so that we can make sure that we are ready also for enlargement. And finally, migration. In migration, first of all, 2 days ago, we had a big success with the agreement in Council for the crisis management, because this was an important piece of the puzzle, the whole puzzle of the Migration and Asylum Act. So now the probability is very high, and I'm confident that we will bring it over the finish line. But there's also the operational work, very strong. The short term, this is the work on the 10-point plan from Lampedusa. And the mid-term work, this is, for example, agreements like we have it with Tunisia. And here is important that we also look at the structural improvements, comprehensive partnership with the countries of transit or of origin, investment in these countries, and also the establishment of legal pathways and humanitarian corridors. The better we are with legal pathways and humanitarian corridors, the stricter we can be and have to be with the return of those who are not eligible for asylum. Because one thing must also be very clear, we have our international obligations, we will fulfill them, we have done that in the past, we do this now, but we as Europeans will decide who comes to Europe and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers.
Madam President, yesterday you met with Georgian Prime Minister as we are waiting for Commission and decision and recommendation for European Council. What will be your main message today for Georgia?
Yes, we have taken stock of the progress in Georgia. Lots has been done, a lot is still to do. So the main message is take the opportunity now, give it a push forward, and be very clear in the reform process and the policies that we have agreed.
Madam President,
what's your message to countries here? Countries who have reservations about cost and also about reforms that need to be done within the Union?
I did not get the first part of your question because everybody was.
Countries have reservations about enlargement. We're hearing worries about cost, but also about the reforms that are needed to make the Union more.
We have a long history of enlargement, and yes, I understand that those who join the European Union have to be ready to join. But the experience of enlargement in the European Union was that it was always to a tremendous benefit for both sides. Not only the accessing countries benefited enormously, the living standard was rising rapidly, but also, of course, the European Union benefited enormously from accession. Our biggest strength is our single market. The enlargement of the single market is always a huge added value for all of us.
Madam President, what report would be perfect?
Morgen. Das ist heute ein ganz wichtiges Treffen, bei dem wir uns hier unterhalten über die Zukunft unserer Europäischen Union. Es geht im Wesentlichen um die Frage der Erweiterung. Wir wissen, dass wir uns vorgenommen haben, jetzt endlich nach 20 Jahren, die das schon zugesagt ist, die westlichen Balkanstaaten in der Europäischen Union aufnehmen zu können, dass wir das vorhaben mit Moldau und der Ukraine, dass wir auch perspektivisch Georgien dabei sehen. Aber alles das macht auch klar, dass wir uns nicht nur mit den Fragen beschäftigen müssen, der Beitrittsprozesse dieser Länder und inwieweit die Voraussetzungen für den Beitritt und wann sie jeweils gewährleistet sind, sondern dass wir auch die Europäische Union selber zukunftsfähig machen müssen. Das betrifft ganz besonders Entscheidungsstrukturen. Ich habe in Prag in einer Rede zu diesem Thema versucht deutlich zu machen, dass es dann nicht sein kann, dass etwa in Fragen der Außenpolitik oder der Steuerpolitik es immer bei Einstimmigkeit bleibt. Wir müssen dann auch mit qualifizierten Mehrheiten Entscheidungen treffen können, damit die Souveränität und Handlungsfähigkeit der Europäischen Union gewährleistet ist. Die Bürgerinnen und Bürger erwarten ja auch, dass wir da, wo Probleme sind, sie lösen, dass wir etwa nach außen hin auch handlungsfähig sind. Und das ist etwas, was wir dann auch sicherstellen müssen. Das gilt auch für Fragen der Governance. Umso mehr Kommissarinnen und Kommissare, umso mehr muss man sich auch überlegen, wie das denn alles vernünftig gemacht werden kann. Man kann ja nicht einfach immer quasi die Regierung erweitern und neue Ministerien erfinden. Da wird man also eine pragmatische Lösung finden müssen. Und für uns in Deutschland spielt natürlich auch immer die Frage, wie viele Sitze hat unser Land im Europäischen Parlament als großes Mitgliedsland. Das wird uns auch bewegen in den nächsten Jahren. Darüber kann jetzt diskutiert werden. Und das gilt dann natürlich auch über die finanziellen Fragen, die damit dann irgendwann verbunden sein werden. Jeder und jede weiß, es ist so, dass es dann nicht dabei bleiben kann, dass alle Länder, die heute Nettozahlungen empfangen, darauf rechnen können, dass das in Zukunft so bleibt, sondern sie werden dann zur Finanzierung auch von Wachstumsprozessen in den Beitrittsländern mit beitragen müssen. Auch das muss ja gemeinsam vorangebracht werden. Also aus meiner Sicht ist das hier ein guter Ort, um diese Fragen, die für die Zukunft Europas von großer Wichtigkeit sind, einmal ohne den Druck einer Entscheidung diskutieren zu können, damit wir die richtigen Grundlagen für das haben, was wir uns für die Zukunft vorgenommen haben.
Sind Sie bereit dazu, diese Dinge auch sozusagen anzuschieben, indem Sie Druck machen? Weil im Prinzip stimmen ja viele zu, aber jeder Einzelne will halt seinen Punkt nicht abgeben, sei es die Agrarsubvention, sei es das Vetorecht. Da muss ja immer noch ein Streit kommen, der das am Ende durchführt.
Ich bin froh, dass wir so früh diskutieren, weil ja ganz offensichtlich ist, dass da viele Fragen auch nicht ganz einfach zu einem gemeinsamen Ergebnis gebracht werden können. Das ist nicht weiter schlimm. Wir sind alles erwachsene Leute. Da muss man Probleme auch diskutieren und auflösen können. Aber das muss jetzt diskutiert werden. Und das war auch der Grund, warum ich sehr weitreichende Aussagen gemacht habe, sowohl in Prag, wo ich die Gelegenheit hatte, eine europapolitische Rede zu halten, die ganz bewusst auf das gezielt hat, was wir heute hier beraten. Und ich bin ganz froh, dass in dann doch so relativ kurzer Zeit daraus ein Diskussionsprozess entstanden ist, der in ganz Europa stattfindet, rechtzeitig, weil das ja nicht nächstes Jahr ansteht und übernächstes Jahr, aber doch bald. Und deshalb darf man nicht immer die Dinge vor sich herschieben, weil die so kompliziert sind, wie ja eben auch geschildert worden ist. Und das Gleiche gilt für das, was ich dem Europäischen Parlament bei meinem Redebeitrag habe darlegen können. Wir müssen schon genau gucken, wie können wir dafür Sorge tragen, dass unser Europa souverän ist, dass es seinen Platz hat in der Welt und die Probleme, die die Bürgerinnen und Bürger haben und wo sie erwarten, dass Europa die Antwort finden muss, auch Europa die Antwort findet. Schönen Dank. Schönen Dank. Ich muss jetzt arbeiten.
Mr. Chancellor, why didn't Germany want...
Okay. Se va la
edina pot, kako urejati, kako učinkovito upravljati z migracijami, legalizacija. Se pravi, čim več migracij, ker te bojo vedno so bile, vedno bojo, čim več teh migracij spraviti skozi legalne oblike, ki vključujejo tako trening centre, ne samo z vidika jezika, ampak tudi z vidika veščin na samih lokacijah izvora, se pravi v državah izvora, konec koncev Evropa potrebuje delovno silo, in potem tudi legalne načine, kako pomagati tem ljudem, da pridejo do tudi služb in domov v Evropski uniji na popolnoma legalen način. In to na način, da se prvič izognemo kriminalnim združbam in drugič, da ljudje, ko pridejo, dobijo čim prej dejansko delo, ki jim tudi ustreza. Hvala lepa.
Hvala lepa. Hvala.
Slovakia yet, so let's see what happens in terms of government formation in Slovakia. And that ultimately is going to be a matter for the Party of European Socialists, and I think it'll depend on how he performs as Prime Minister, if he becomes Prime Minister. That's really going to be a matter for them. But I just hope there won't be a double standard in terms of what they would have said about us. No, I'm very ambitious about enlargement. I think some countries, particularly some of the countries in the Balkans, have been asked to wait too long. I think we should speed it up. But I also think we need to be honest and realistic with people about how long it takes. You have to meet certain standards to join the European Union. You have to get to a certain level in terms of the economy and governance and law. And we can't short-circuit those things or shortcut those things. So from the point at which you become a candidate to the point at which you actually become a member, it's many years. But I'm very enthusiastic about future enlargement. One of the great things about having the European Political Community meeting here yesterday was, I had a chance to speak to the Prime Minister of Albania, the Prime Minister of North Macedonia, the President of Montenegro, and to be able to say to them that Ireland is very much behind them when it comes to their bid to become members, and then also briefly when I spoke to President Zelenski yesterday to reassure them and the Moldovans too that Ireland will favour the beginning of negotiations with them in December, provided the Commission recommendation on that is anyway favourable.
What do you think? If it's really possible to get Europe and generally one of democracy and accountability, it's fair to accept their membership in such kind of powerful European.
Yeah, I'd have to double check on that. I don't think Aliyev's party is in the EPP. I've certainly never met him in EPP. CDI. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, look, I think that would be very difficult. I haven't seen any application for them to join the EPP, and as you know, Azerbaijan is outside the European Union, so I think you could only even become an associate member in that circumstance. But I'd have to double check. Look, I think given the events in in Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia, that would be extremely difficult. Had a chance to meet the Armenian Prime Minister there yesterday. It's a very difficult situation. Almost the entire Armenian population of Nagorno-Karabakh has had to leave. That's very distressing, I think, and Armenia is now dealing with the very big refugee crisis. And one thing I think we need to stand over as EU is that the territorial borders of Armenia must be respected. Those are the borders that have been in place and internationally recognised since the end of the USSR, and I think they have to be respected.
Okay, thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Faut que je retrouve So, das ist kein Kurs. Ja? Das ist kein Kurs, die Kriterien. Und die Kriterien müssen erfüllt sein. Ob das nicht hat droit, ob das gegen Korruption ist, da kann ich nicht einfach so, aber dann ist das egal, weil du Potenzial ist für Konfliktsituationen. Dafür sind dann zum Beispiel die Reunion von gestern mal mit PC gut. Weil für darauf zurückzukommen, ich hatte gestern ja eine Reunion über Multilateralismus, wo ich so zu 11 Ländern, von den 11 Ländern sind am Anfang 4. Das war Liechtenstein, das war Schweiz, das war wo San Marino, wo Schweiz, wo Lützeburg, an Irland, an dann nach Irland heinst du einfach mehr kompliziert mit dem Good Friday Agreement. Aber all die anderen Länder haben potenziell Konfliktsituationen. Das war Georgien, das war Kosovo, das war Armenien, das war Lettland, das war Litauen, das war Zypern, das war Griechenland. Das heißt, sind eigentlich Länder, die aber mit ihren Operen Probleme haben. Da wenn es die EPC wichtig an Menschen Prämie, so dass zum Beispiel wie wichtig für HW auf die EPC auch können zu kommen. Dafür schon die Daseinsberechtigung als bestätigt.
Zweck zur Reform von der EU. Wie muss die Reform auflaufen? Kann eine EU-Erweiterung kommen? Ihr Reform, also da muss verdicht Reform kommen?
Normal ist es besser, für den Ordnung am Haus in Tiere groß abmischt. Der Fall ist, es sind verschiedene Regeln, wo man muss darüber diskutieren, wie man funktionieren. Weil wir sehen ganz oft, dass man zu 27 scheinst du Geiselgehol von dem einen oder von dem anderen. Da muss neben dem Mechanismus verändert wie aber weiter könnte nicht, dass es für verschiedene Länder dann Möglichkeit ist, für alles zu blockieren, die Projekte europäer zu blockieren. Mit da sind nach Hausaufgaben da, für allem gehen Kriterien, und die Kriterien kann man nicht über Bord gehen, auch von Situationen kritisch ist.
War das die wichtigste Reform, die als echt umgegangen ist?
Für mich hast du nicht Respekt vor Regeln. Wir haben spricht zum Beispiel monetaire de droit, dass wir dort Regeln nämlich streng gesehen, dass durch finanzielle Sanktionen, also nicht Sanktionen, wie so ein Abschied von nicht überwiesen gehen, von monetaire de droit nicht respektiert wird. Aber am Anfang der Pindorsal von den Werten von der Europäischen Union schon nicht mehr respektiert gehen, am Anfang mal da Hund sind, am Anfang irgendwie Zahn die Bilder aber nicht beißen kann. Das ist ein Problem.
Wie ist mit der Unanimität? Du hast Lützburg was bestimmte Momenten, wo geht immer mit den Zahlen.
Ja, noch immer.
Wo sieht er dann dort Limiten, nach wo müsst ihr vielleicht abgegeben?
Wenn man will, als europäisches Kontinent auch eine Rolle spielen, dann muss man auch international eine Rolle spielen. Das ist die Außenpolitik zum Beispiel von den Punkten, wo wir der Meinung sind, dass man schon mehr könnten, die Unanimität aufschaffen, wird auch die europäische Position stärken an der Welt. Am Moment sind wir ganz oft ein Kakaoett auf der internationalen Bühne. Wir sind ein ökonomisch ganz stark Kontinent, aber politisch war immer viel mehr, wie das, was wir am Anfang repräsentieren.
Weiter Thema hat das Migration. Wie ist die Position von der aktuellen Regierung?
Du hast ja einen Akkord von gehen, das Fach auch stehen weiter, den an die richtige Richtung geht. Für uns ist wichtig, dass die internationalen Menschenrechte auch respektiert gehen. Aber tatsächlich, Kapazitäten sind auch nicht illimitiert. Und dafür muss ich gucken, wie eine Region kann finden. Am Moment ist es mal weitergegangen. Da gehen die Gespräche da weiter, mit das zu Bresel, das vor nach Koch von das schon nicht garantiert. Da muss man gucken. Ich weiß, dass verschiedene Länder ganz zäh sind. Die frohe Solidarität kann ça les arrange. Und dann da haben wir nicht eine Geometrie variable. Und dafür brauchen wir auch einen permanenten Mechanismus.
Mit den Akkord respektiert die Menschenrechte.
Das muss ich nur gucken, wann er ganz definitiv definiert ist. Der Fakt ist, die wollen nicht auf Flüchtlinge, also den Gefühl zu gehen, wie wir kriminell auf Flüchtlinge zu Summe geben, an den Satz gesagt gehen, als nicht richtig, fand ich. Es muss in Prozeduren einfach respektieren. Dublin muss auch funktionieren, wir sehen, dass Dublin nicht funktioniert. mir hun als Regel gin, mir gesinn, dass de bis net funktioniert hunn, wenn se muss auch eben gucken, fir do verschärft ze gin. Mit huet was auch bei zu Lützeburg kind Limiten. Bei zu Lützeburg kind doch Limiten an wann war kein Platz mit ist kein Platz mit du. An mir sind immer solidarisch, so viel man können, mir wann net geht, da geht net. An da muss vun andere Länder de Solidarität doch erwarten, die awer den europäische Projekt so noch bringen.
Lachte Somme vun den Wahlen zu Lützeburg eng Gefiel kom da hin eventuell auch gefiel dat de lachte Somme dech als so gewählt den Lützeburg.
Dat décidéiert wie dat se sonden hun Lo Chance die lacht 10 Joer ha ons Land vertreten. Dat net mir zu so, ob dat gut oder net gut ver. Fall hun als Positionen können verteidigen, wie von allem ein europäische Projekte noch weiter schaffen an den Limiten, die man hun. Dat is idee te veel en ik zonder op nach 5 jaar die op Brüssel kommen oder net.
Respektiv van der am besten der EU die letzten Zwecken.
Die Friedensprojekt aber an intern. Wenn man gucken zwischen den 27 rundherum überall Konflikte. Überall. Armenien sitzen halb CPR in der Europäischen Union, Kosovo Serbien sitzen am CPR in der Europäischen Union. Und die Europäische Union haben fertig seit dem Zweiten Weltkrieg, aber innerhalb den Ländern, an denen es mal einfach als regelmäßig gesehen und etwas abgebaut hat, Frieden zu tun. Am Anfang aus Europa für allem ein Friedensprojekt. Und, das ist schwer, weil direkt rundherum, also in einer Konfliktsituation, dann schaffen, dass man den Friedensprojekt aber immer hochhalten, an denen er auch, an dem wir diskutieren, für immer auch fertig hochhalten.
Und nicht als Premier, kann auch als Außenminister lesen.
Aber dat décidéet mar immer de Wler. De Wler décidéiert wat még Rolle ass fir die nächst 5 Joer. Ich probiert mei best ze ma, wo kein einfach Jo, wo noch kein einfach Jo firich, mit die Lächt 5 Joer wo Covid, wo en Energiekriisiert, wo en Inflationsjoren, probiert mei best ze ginn, wann Wler menggt dat deint besser gemer oder gewen besser die nächst 5 Joer mache, dann ass de so. Voilà.
Ech nach eng Pro zur Erweiterung van Sterben. Meng der net, dat an de de Message gëtt, ja getschwer bis 2030 mir wissen an net wirklich, dat de Reformen a verschiedene Länder wie an der Ukraine zum Beispiel ganz stark ausbremst, an dat net eng froh vun Ermutigungsmessage Mist kommen.
Ja, wir müssen den richtigen Equiliber finden, Herr Velasquez. Auf der einen Seite, also mit demotivieren, Herr Worte, Leute keine falsche Hoffnung zu geben. Und da ist eine Woche schlecht Zeichen, wenn man all kreierst Leute so. Die sieht bald drum, wie just nach der Tour, und da fehlt einfach noch etwas mehr Kriterien, von denen bis erfüllt sind, dann ist der Moment. Die wisst, depuis le début, gehören zu denen, die nicht dafür sind, die sehen mehr Kriterien, wir müssen die Kriterien respektieren, haben wir noch verschiedene interne Regeln, die müssen vielleicht verbessern, eher just Familie groß opmachen, weil das bringt doch Probleme mit sich.
Aber wie realistisch ist das, dass man Dynamität geschwind aufschaffen an der Außenpolitik, weil es keinen Sinn machen mehr?
Ja, im Moment ist es ganz schwer, und im Moment ist es für mich wichtig, dass wir fertig bringen, die Änderungen zu machen, wo man keine Treaties-Änderungen brauchen. Weil die wissen ganz genau, wenn man eine Treaties-Änderung braucht, da braucht man eine Unanimität.
Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros, señor Bernet. Nos acompaña Enrique Jaime Colbeck Vergara, controlador de tráfico. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros, señor Colbeck. Asimismo, el señor Michael Bailant, de la unidad GEIPAN para el Centro Nacional de Estudios Especiales, Estudios de la Comprensión de los Fenómenos Aeroespaciales Anómalos No Identificados. Muchas gracias, bienvenido sea usted. Asimismo, contamos con la presencia del maestro Mariano Tellonosetti, director del Centro de Atención a la Sociedad del INAI. Muchísimas gracias, bienvenidos a usted, maestro. De igual forma, queremos saludar y agradecer la presencia de las y los diputados que nos acompañan, del resto de los ponentes que a lo largo de esta tarde nos irán presentando sus ponencias, asimismo, de las personas que nos acompañan este día, así como a quienes están siguiendo esta presentación a través de los diferentes medios de comunicación. Para darnos la bienvenida a esta audiencia pública, que el día de hoy nos reúne, escucharemos las palabras del diputado Sergio Gutiérrez Luna. Por favor, diputado, quede usted en el uso de la palabra.
about money. This is always complex and difficult, and it's a starting point today. We will not decide today. We will start those efforts to converge from a political point of view. And finally, how do we decide together, to make sure that we are ready and able to act or to react when needed. This is the framework for, I hope, a good debate that will take place today. And under the Belgian presidency, we will work further. And the goal is to have some concrete principles, orientation for the future around the summer next year.
Finnish Prime Minister just earlier said that enlargement is a geopolitical necessity. Is this element getting stronger compared to the traditional criteria?
Look, let's be frank. The recent years, we have observed a certain form of serious difficulties, even to address the topic, even to discuss the topic at the level of the leaders. And we have understood with this war launched by Russia against Ukraine, it's not possible anymore to procrastinate. This is possible anymore to turn blind eyes. We need to address, to tackle this question. It doesn't mean that this is easy, because across the European Union there are different opinions, sensitivities, and this is the European democracy. We show respect for this reality, but this is not because this is difficult that we shouldn't address. On the contrary, this is difficult, but I think that we have the political strength to address such a topic and to make decisions.
What is more important for you, the geopolitical dimension or the merit-based process?
No, this is very clear. This is a merit-based process. This is extremely clear. And because it's a merit-based process, this is good to set a date, because with a date, it will encourage everyone to work in order to fulfill commitments.
But if it's necessary from a geopolitical point of view, wouldn't it be also possible to become member and reform inside the EU?
I'm very clear, and I have been very clear, this is a merit-based process. It will remain a merit-based process. But there is no position between a date and a merit-based process. On the contrary, a date is an encouragement to make sure that the conditions will be fulfilled by each side within the EU, but including with the candidate countries. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
te han hecho caso. ¿Has visto? Una llamada, ha sido llamada.
that I had with the Prime Ministers this morning. I would like to sincerely welcome the Nobel Peace Prize being given to Narges Mohammadi, a women's rights activist and human rights defender. I think it's a very important message and one that we definitely welcome. So yesterday we had a very good meeting of the European political community, a format of EU candidates and European partners that I believe is very useful, especially as we are experiencing war on our continent and our collective security is increasingly under threat. But to be clear at the outset, the EPC cannot become a substitute for enlargement because enlargement is and remains the European Union's strongest geopolitical tool. It is an investment in peace and security and democracy, and importantly, prosperity, a process that benefits everyone involved, both current and new members. And if previous enlargements have shown us, is that this is evidently the case. And that's why one of my main messages was to say that we must start a genuine discussion on our own EU internal reform. We need to be ready when the candidates are ready. Therefore, we must start now, because it is long overdue, and anything is clear is that what worked or works for 27 will not work for 32, 33, or 35. And I did this in order to link it also with how we reform internally, which we have to kickstart, but also looking at the immediacy of the work that we are doing until the end of the year is the revision of our long-term budget, the multi-annual financial framework. And my second point was about the fact that funds are finite. If the pandemic, the invasion of Ukraine, natural disasters, and the cost of living crisis have shown us, is that all have taken their toll on our budget. Rising interest rates have pushed up our next generation EU borrowing costs, and we cannot let the next generation of Europeans become responsible for repaying our debts. So I also said that our budget is stretched to the limit, to the extent that it cannot be that if a country that faces a natural disaster towards the end of the year is told that there is no money left. This is the reality that we live in today, and if we continue on this trajectory in December this year, our current funding for Ukraine will run out. And this means that we cannot simply ignore these realities. We need to act now. That's for the security of Ukraine, for the security and future of Europe. We spent a lot of time talking about migration. For the first time in decades, and really decades, there is a realistic possibility to find an agreement on our common rules on asylum and migration. It is within reach. Now, to do this, we need to hold the course. We need to keep calm heads and finalize our work on the Asylum and Migration Pact. There are 5 files. All of them can now, following the agreement this week reached on the crisis regulation, can resume with the pace that I would like to see faster, but looking at a successful resolution over this pact by the end of our mandate. And the reason why I say the end of our mandate, because election after election, migration dominates our citizens' concerns. It tops our citizens' concerns. And what we cannot let is this debate dominate and polarize yet another European elections campaign. I'm not saying it won't happen, but the least we can do is that we can show on paper, on black and white, that we have addressed this issue from a legislative angle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have time for a few questions. We start with Gabriella here, please.
Hi.
Hungary and Poland cannot alone block a majority deal, but they are, offering very harsh anti-immigration rhetoric today in the arrivals, talking about legal rape and, clearly outlining their position against the EU policies. So even if they can't stop it formally, what does it say about the possible implementation? And you're saying, we're going to have a deal on paper, but will it actually change anything on the ground? Thanks.
I mean, I remain optimistic. What has kept us, let's say, far behind in the past is that there was no political will to go through with such ambitious legislation with a majority. Consensus was sought year after year in an area, and this is when we talk about what we mean by veto rights, in an area where a veto cannot be used in migration policy. Now, does that mean that we do not understand individual countries? I had a conversation this morning with the Prime Minister of Poland on this, and there is, a need to recognize that national situations are different. If you talk to colleagues from the Baltic states, they talk about the hybrid threat of migrants being pushed through Belarus. That is a new front, if you will. I still regret, in a way, after having worked in this area for decades, is that we still do not realistically make distinctions between a land border and a sea border, between irregular arrivals that come by sea and irregular arrivals that come by land. And I think that if we go and we can convince, and there will be a lot of efforts for this to be made, that the 5 files can go through, which balance security at the external border with solidarity from an asylum perspective, then I think we can really start to look long-term at identifying how we deal with our neighbors. The countries that you mentioned, refer to different neighbors, how we talk to countries that are either, and help countries that are source countries or transit countries. So there is no individual solution. There's no, if I can use the term silver bullet, but let's not kill this pact before we adopt it. I think we owe ourselves and our citizens that.
Oliver. Thank you. Hi, over here. Oliver Grimm with the Austrian newspaper Die Presse. You said on enlargement, what works for 27 won't work for 32, 33, or 35. Why not? And secondly, on migration, why do you want to make a distinction between land and sea borders? Well, why is that important to you? What would it solve that currently isn't being solved?
So thank you for this. So for the second part, I'll start with that. It's because when we are talking about search and rescue missions, for example, that take place, the role of Frontex, the role of the European Union Asylum Agency, how we deploy, how we process applications, etc. There is a completely different scenarios that happen, and it is that we keep facing year after year. But if we want a specific data point, it is a realization 10 years after the Lampedusa tragedy, which we commemorated this week in the European Parliament, with a realization that we have not managed. I wouldn't even say find a solution, but really address the situation where for thousands and thousands of people, for them there is no other option but to get on a boat, most often smuggled, and face, especially if you are women and children, an almost certain death. It is for that reason that I think that we need a specific a way to address the different methods of arrivals by persons who look to Europe as their home, individuals who have no other option, individuals who are persecuted and can never return, and individuals who are looking for a job. And I think that is one that would benefit listening to each and every single European member state in order to identify solutions that at least can find the broadest of consensus. 27, 32, 33. I give you 2 examples. It took us almost 6 months to decide on the date of the European elections, and quite a few months to decide on the increase of numbers of members of the European Parliament. So we will increase from 705 to 720. We talk about adapting our policies. we recognized after the pandemic that actually dealing with health at the European level worked. We are no longer a set of energy islands, but deeply interconnected because we had no choice in order to uncouple from Russia. We have been talking about a European energy union for years, and we still do not have that entrenched in our treaties. Now, we can discuss treaty reform separately, not get bogged down in whether you have a veto or remove, let's say, the unanimity rule. You can talk about numbers of commissioners, etc., but I would put that separately. I would say take stock of where it would mean something for our citizens. We recall the Conference on the Future of Europe, a whole year of debate as to where Europe can do better, and actually it has. And it has resolved. Going back to migration, you ask citizens, why is this the top of your concerns, especially for European elections? And the answer is because only Europe can solve it. And I think that's the conversation we need to have. Because when countries are ready, we cannot then say, actually, we are not. We saw that last December with a non-decision on accession of Romania and Bulgaria to Schengen area. And that, I think, is a situation where, in the long term, even when talking to our Western Balkan countries, is what they hope, or in the sense they dread that would happen to them.
We have the gentleman there who have asked many times. Corner.
Mateusz Chustun from Polish Radio RMF. I would like to ask you also another question about the migration, because in the morning our Prime Minister said that he will not change his statement about the migration pact. And of course, everything depends on the election next week in Poland. But what are you going to do if the Law and Justice, this political party, will win the election? How are you going to talk to them about the migration pact? And this is the first question. Another short question about the Nagorno-Karabakh, because we've heard that this is also a big topic on that summit. What about the Nagorno-Karabakh? If this area will be still independent, or this agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, included this country to Azerbaijan, how it looks? Thank you.
Thank you. First, of course, I will not presume to speculate on the outcome of the election next week. And I recall, a number of discussions that we've had with our Polish partners for many years, but also recently with the situation of the migrations being brought in from Belarus, for example. That is a specific situation. But I would also say that one needs to talk to another. I think what we have not done enough in the European Union is actually find broader consensus. This week was an exception. We have seen the discussion very well led by the Spanish presidency to unblock the crisis regulation, with Italy and Germany coming together to agree with making sure that their individual perspectives are met. And that is one that I think we could bring countries like Poland on board in the longer term. So I would rather say we'll see what happens at the election, and we will talk to the government, and as always have been done, in order to identify whether we could help to change the position, convince, and also understand the realities that are being faced by all individual countries. On Nagorno-Karabakh, I was asked about this question during the debate with the prime ministers. I confirmed that yesterday a very strongly worded resolution was adopted in the European Parliament on the situation. At the moment, we would focus on the humanitarian crisis, in other words, how to help Armenia absorb the refugees, tens of thousands who have left their lives behind within hours because they were forced to leave. But I also welcome all efforts to de-escalate, and therefore wish that we would see that de-escalation result in something a little bit more concrete than we've had so far. in the future meetings with the European Council President, the French President and the German Chancellor, who have placed a lot of responsibility on themselves to speak to both Armenia and Azerbaijan. Finally, I have invited the Prime Minister of Armenia to address the plenary, and he will in Strasbourg on the 18th, so in 10 days from now.
One final question here, please.
Thank you, Madam
Hi.
President. I'm Emin Hussein from Objective TV, exile-based Azerbaijani.
Yes, we spoke yesterday.
Yeah. My question is, European Parliament adopted since from this year 3 resolutions. In March, a resolution on EU and Azerbaijan relationship. In September, we have resolutions which is urged situation with the political prosecution in case like Gubati Badoglu, famous scholar and anti-corruption fighters. And recently, you adopted a resolution with situation with Karabakh. And always you urge Azerbaijani government to improve situation with human rights, respect European values, but situation not improve according to our observation. And government still try to get some kind of benefits in relation with EU. They are still continue to provide sell gas and oil to EU member states. But Azerbaijani civil society and critical voices like independent media and opposition stay in the
Can we come
big
to the
disaster.
question, please?
What EU should do to improve situation? Because we are your energy partner, but Azerbaijani people in reality didn't get any benefits from EU. It's 10 million population which is live in the big prison.
Okay. Thank you. So we spoke, as I said yesterday, and I will repeat again. I mean, I stand by the resolutions of the European Parliament. Those are the official position, as you know. But perhaps to add is that what we have been very consistent, especially since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, is that we cannot go from one unreliable partner for energy to another. And that is a position that we keep. Okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Thank you.
Well, we could do it